How is it that we find the strength to endure times of deep darkness? How is it that we are able to move forward with our lives when we feel completely lost and alone, when we're devoid of courage, when we feel that all hope is lost? Judaism doesn't necessarily provide us with answers to these questions, but more appropriately, responses to these questions. For each of us, the response may be very different. And so I'd like to begin first with a story that may be familiar. I think it's told in many different religious contexts, also in secular contexts. The story is of a man, let's call him Jacob. Jacob is living in a town where there's been a very heavy rainfall, and the rain is continuing to come down at a very rapid rate. The creek that flows through the center of the town has begun to fill, and it is threatening to flood the entire town. And people are calling to one another to evacuate their homes, to leave their residences, to flee to safety. Now, Jacob has always prided himself on being a very pious individual, one with a complete and perfect faith in God. And so as his friends are gathering around and trying to convince him to leave his home, he says to them, no, I'm going to stay right where I am. I am secure in my faith. I know that God will protect me. His friends continue to argue with him, and they try and get him to change his mind, but he remains unmoved, relying on God and his faith in God to protect him from any danger that might come through these flood waters. Well, the waters continue to rise as the rain continues to fall. And soon the water has covered the street and is coming up the steps to his porch. People continue to evacuate the town, although this time they're not walking on foot, they are in boats. And again, a friend comes by in a boat, in a rowboat, and says to Jacob, Jacob, come, flee with me to safety. This is becoming much too dangerous. You have to come with us. You must protect yourself. Again, Jacob says, I have perfect faith in God. I know that God is with me, that God will protect me from these flood waters. I don't need the help of the rowboat, and thank you very much. I don't need your help either. God is enough for me. I will rely and place my trust and my faith in God. Well, the friend in the rowboat continues on and helps other people in need and more accepting of his help. Well, the floodwaters by now are continuing to rise into the first floor. The first floor of Jacob's house is now filled with water. He has to flee up the steps to the second floor of his house. The water continues to rise. This time, the police come by in a motorboat, and they plead with Jacob to leave his home. Jacob says, my faith is in God. Thank you very much for your offer, but God will protect me. I feel safe in the knowledge that God is always a presence in my life. God would not let any harm come to me. I'm a man of complete faith. Well, the police continue on their way, rescuing others who are accepting of their help. Finally, the water has completely covered the second floor. Jacob is now on the rooftop of his house. A helicopter comes by and calls out to Jacob, Jacob, the waters are completely covering your house. You're on the roof. Come to safety. Flee with us to safety. Accept our help. Come into the helicopter. And they lower a rope ladder to him. And Jacob at this point still refuses. He says, I am a man of complete faith. I trust in God. God will help me through this time of danger, through this time of trial. God is with me as a presence in my life. I know that God will not let any harm come to me. Well, the waters completely cover Jacob's house, and Jacob is swept away by the waters. Jacob winds up in heaven, and he is a little bit upset and confused, and even a little bit angry that his faith in God has not served him, that he does not survive the flood, that his life is now over, and he demands to speak with God. And God accepts this request, accepts this demand, and Jacob is standing before the throne of glory, demanding to know what happened. Why had God abandoned Jacob in his time of need? After all, Jacob had been a very pious person, had lived a life of complete and perfect faith, had lived a good life. Why was it that he was abandoned by God? And God said to Jacob, I was present with you at every step along the way. First, I sent your friends. Then I sent the rowboat. Then I sent the motorboat. And finally, I sent the helicopter. Jacob, you refused to accept any of this help that was offered to you. The message of this story is that sometimes in our time of crisis, when we are looking to God for our faith, that we must instead look to other people. That it's very clear to Jacob in the end that having faith in God is so important, but having faith in human beings, in your community, in your friends, is also so very, very important. This is a lesson that another Jacob learned, this time in chapter 28 of the book of Genesis. Read the story of Jacob and his brother Esau. Jacob's life is a struggle from its very inception. He and his brother Esau are engaged in combat, so much so that it causes Rebekah, their mother, tremendous pain, and she seeks to understand what is happening to her. And God tells her that there are two nations within her womb and that they will be in struggle with one another. Jacob is born, and the family situation does not improve. His mother loves him more than Esau. His father loves Esau more than him, setting up an intense conflict from which he will struggle to recover. He steals his brother's birthright and then later steals the blessing of the firstborn. With the stealing of the firstborn blessing, he is counseled by his mother to flee his home because surely Esau will kill him. So he must abandon his home, abandon his family, abandon all that is familiar, and to continue to cope with the guilt that he must feel at having caused so much devastation within his home, within his own life. He comes to a place that is so completely desolate, so completely devoid of life, that he has to use a rock as a pillow. It is there that he has a dream in which he sees a ladder going up to heaven, and the angels are going up and down the ladder. And at the top of the ladder, he sees the very face of God. He wakes up from this dream, and he understands that God remains present with him, even in such a desolate place. And he utters a sentence of complete surprise. How awesome is this place? Surely God is here, and I did not know it. And it's a transformative experience in a time of complete feeling of complete abandonment, of feeling lost, no hope, completely cut off from his family of origin. It is there when he opens himself up in that desert, in that place of desolation, that he's able to not only feel the presence of God in his life, but also to have this dream that tells him that the angels, which are coming from the earth and going up to heaven, that these angels, our sages of blessed memory counsel us, are not divine beings, but are human beings. They're the people that he will encounter in the coming days and weeks that will help him to not only to survive and to come through this crisis, but to thrive and to continue to grow. And so Jacob, in recognition of what has happened to him, he says that he will dedicate 1/10 of everything that he acquires, that he will dedicate that to God. And this is really the first mention in the Bible of giving back, of sharing, what in Hebrew is called tzedakah, an act of not only of charity, but an act of righteousness. And so that it's not just through other people that Jacob will be able to overcome this time of deep darkness, but it is through serving other people, through providing of his own wealth, of his own material goods, that he will be able to grow and to return to a sense of wholeness and return to his home as well. Just a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to talk with a family in preparation for a funeral. One of the things that they shared with me about this gentleman who had just passed was that he had lived more than 50 years with intense chronic pain. And they couldn't understand how he was able to endure this pain, how he was able to get up in the morning, to go through the day, to continue to live his life with a pain that was so great at times it brought tears to his eyes. And as I listened to them talk about this man and what he meant to them, it became very clear to me how it was that he was able to survive, how he was able to endure. It was through the love of his family, through recognizing that those relationships were so important, and that caring for his family, and not only just receiving their care, but being able to provide for them through his work, being able to love them, being present for them, was the best relief for the pain that he continued to endure throughout his life. At one point, one of his sons asked him how he was able to bear the pain, how it was that he was able to keep on with each day. And he said to his son, in referring to the son's mother, his wife, "I'm hanging in because of her." He was able to endure this tremendous pain in his life because of the love that he felt for not only his wife, not only for his children, but for his grandchildren as well. This was the secret to how he was able to endure. These are just a few of the responses that come to us through Jewish tradition, that we are able to endure times of crisis when we were able to not only look towards God, but look towards God's creation, to look to our fellow human beings. Sometimes the endurance, the strength that we need to survive a time of deep darkness comes when we are able to look outside of ourselves and to turn to the needs of others. And sometimes it is the love of our family that helps us to endure the chronic pain that is a part of life. I would like to share with you words that were written by Rabbi Naomi Levy, words of a prayer that I find to be of tremendous comfort in times of personal crisis. She writes, "Teach me always to believe in my power to return to life, to hope and to you, my God, no matter what pains I have endured, no matter how far I have strayed from you. Give me the strength to resurrect my weary spirit. Revive me, God, and I will embrace life once more in joy, in passion, and in peace. Amen."